There's always something about the end of a year that kind of makes you take a step back and reflect. And 2025, wow, it was definitely one of those years. It was a year where a lot of us just kind of looked up and realized, man, I feel older, a little more tired maybe, but also, I don't know, a little more tender. It was the year a whole lot of things just quietly shifted under the surface. And it wasn't just one big thing, right? It was more like this collective vibe, this feeling that time was moving a little differently, that the ground was subtly changing beneath our feet. It's like that gut punch moment when you realize a song you loved in college is now on the classic rock station. Yeah, it was like this quiet hum of change that we were all suddenly tuned into. This quote right here just nails it. See, 2025 wasn't about one single massive event that everyone remembers. It was more like a slow burn, this gradual pileup of feelings, one moment, one headline, one conversation at a time, until you just couldn't ignore the weight of it all. So, where did all this feeling come from? Well, let's start with the people we all thought we knew. Okay, so a huge piece of this puzzle came from watching the icons, the cultural figures we all grew up with. Suddenly, the headlines didn't feel like they were about distant celebrities anymore. They started to feel, well, personal. These names that seemed larger than life, totally untouchable, they started to sound incredibly human. I mean, take Val Kilmer. All of a sudden, his story wasn't just some Hollywood gossip. It became this really powerful story about vulnerability, about survival, and just the plain reality of living your life beyond the spotlight. It felt less like celebrity news and way more like a human story. And then you've got someone like Ozzy Osbourne, right? I mean, this guy was the living, breathing symbol of rock and roll excess for decades. And seeing him talk so openly about his physical struggles, it wasn't sad, it was actually really grounding. It was this massive reminder that time is the one thing that gets us all, no exception. And even with someone like the amazing Jane Goodall, who's still so incredibly active, you could feel the conversation start to shift. We started talking about her with this reverence that wasn't just for her work, but for the sheer length of her journey. It wasn't about her being old. It was about recognizing the incredible depth her legacy has gained over all that time. But for a lot of people, this feeling really hit home with the passing of Raul Malo, the frontman of the Mavericks. His band's music was literally the soundtrack for a whole generation back in the early 90s. But what really stood out in 2025 was his incredible honesty. He shared his illness, his treatments. He really took his fans on that journey with him. And it was a powerful reminder that even the most vibrant people are fragile. So when he passed away at just 60, it was just this sudden, very personal shock to the system, a reminder of how fast things can change. And that's really the question that bubbles up, isn't it? When you see your heroes getting older, you can't help but confront your own mortality. It wasn't exactly grief, not yet. It was recognition. The recognition that the clock is ticking for us too. And that's a realization that lands a little differently for every single one of us. So, okay, you have all these personal feelings bubbling up, but how did that become this huge collective mood? Well, the internet definitely didn't help. In fact, it created what you could call a constant state of emotional whiplash. And this definition here is just spot on. I mean, think about it. You're scrolling, you're laughing at a funny cat video, and then the very next post is this heartbreaking story or some furious debate about the end of the world. Our poor nervous systems just weren't built for that kind of constant, jarring jump from silly to serious, from light to heavy, over and over and over again. And get this, while we're all trying to process these really deep feelings, the online trend cycle is just churning out absolute absurdity. It felt like overnight everyone became an expert on trauma or healing or mindset, and of course they were selling The Secret in a course for $1,000. Spirituality became just another aesthetic, and if you weren't loudly doing the work or optimizing your life, you felt like you were falling behind. Man, it was exhausting. And this right here really breaks down the great confusion of it all. In all that online noise of 2025, we started getting these things totally mixed up. We saw aggression and mistook it for confidence. We saw people being constantly visible and thought that meant they were grounded. And being the loudest person in the room somehow became more valuable than actually being thoughtful. But maybe the most troubling part of all was this. We literally watched cruelty get rebranded as honesty. People got rewarded with likes, with shares, for being mean. They'd say things online they would never ever have the guts to say to someone's face, all while hiding behind this idea of just being honest. But let's be real.
cruelty dressed up as truth is still just cruelty.
So, okay, you've got our icons aging, you've got the internet going completely haywire. It's really no surprise that our whole idea of grief started to change. It started to get bigger. Yeah, in 2025, the idea of grief expanded. Loss wasn't just about losing a person anymore. It became this more abstract kind of mourning. We weren't just grieving people, we were grieving concepts, ideas, even past versions of ourselves that we felt were disappearing.
And this list, wow, it's so powerful because I think we can all relate to it, right? We mourned slower conversations. We mourned having attention spans that could actually handle nuance. We mourned the ability to just disagree with someone without it turning into a total war. And yeah, on a really personal level, a lot of us grieved for those younger versions of ourselves, the ones who thought time was endless, who hadn't yet felt that deep, soul-level burnout. But here's the thing, this grief didn't just paralyze us, it actually made things clearer. It showed us what we really, truly value.
And then, right in the middle of all this heavy reflection on time and loss, you get a quote like this. It completely reframes the whole conversation. Getting older isn't a burden, it's a privilege. Aging isn't a failure to be hidden away, it's proof of survival. Every single gray hair, every wrinkle, you've earned that. It's proof that you've lived, you've been through stuff, and you're still here. So, okay, after a year that felt like a complete emotional marathon, what now? Where do we go from here? It would be so easy to just brace for more of the same chaos, but that's not really what started to happen. What emerged wasn't some loud, blind optimism. It was quieter, a more intentional kind of hope. Hope didn't just disappear, it got quiet. And you know what? A quieter hope is often the most honest kind. It wasn't about pretending everything was suddenly perfect. It was about making a conscious choice to show up a little differently in the year ahead. And this is what that kind of change actually looks like day to day. It's not some huge, grand gesture. It's the small, individual choices we all make. So step 1, slow down your reactions. Just pause before you hit send. Step 2, stop rewarding bad behavior with your clicks and your comments. Just disengage. Step 3, disagree without dehumanizing. It's possible. And step 4, and this is maybe the most important one, remember there is a real, live human being on the other side of that screen. Because ultimately, it really does come down to this. No fancy algorithm or new viral trend is going to fix this mess for us. It's on us. It comes down to people deciding every single day to just be a little more thoughtful, a little more human. And so, that leaves us right here. After a year where we felt, well, pretty much everything, 2026 isn't some scary warning. It's an invitation. It's an open door, a blank page. Realizing what's broken is the very first step toward building something better. So the only question left is the one right there on your screen.